Hi, everybody. This is my second time trying to do the intro, so forgive me here. Technical stuff is fun, but you know what? We all get through it, so we can all be together here today. So, hi, PonyFest Online 6.0. Hard to believe we're at our 6th one now, and it's been a delight to be doing content here with PonyFest since the very first one back in 2020. And I'm very delighted here to share another Keeping Friendship Magic panel with you guys today. So, for those of you who are unfamiliar, my name is Forward Progress, and I run the Keeping Friendship Magic project here. And what Keeping Friendship Magic does is we take real-world social science, which is my specialty, it's what I went to school for, and combine it with ponies and pop culture and the franchises we all know and love and fandom to talk about how we can bring those concepts we all love from the shows that we watch and bring it into the real world and bring us a little closer together here. So today's panel is called The Pony I Wanna Be. You're going to see as we get into it a little bit more about why we're giving it this name. But I'm not going to spoil things ahead of time. So we do have a lot to get to, so I'm going to get right into things here. Hopefully we can finish everything in time, because there is a portion of this that when I presented it before, had to get cut for time. And fingers crossed, we are going to be able to fit it in this time. So that being said, I do want to start this off with a slight content warning. Now, granted, this panel's not NSFW. You don't have to worry about that or anything like that. But I do bring this up here. We are going to be talking about some heavy topics in this panel. We're going to be talking about mental health, and this does include discussion of topics including such things as suicide. So obviously these are topics that can be very sensitive to people. So if at any reason you're like, okay, this is a little much for me and you need to step off for a second, completely understandable. Nobody will hold it against you. I understand the sensitivity of such topics, but these are also topics we need to talk about here in a way to bring us all kind of closer together here. So that being said here, I always start off a Keeping Friendship Magic panel talking about my initial belief, the thing that made me just kind of really go into making this project, making this content, making these panels here. So, when I went to my first pony convention back in 2014, I felt a camaraderie, a sense of friendship, a belief, this sense of togetherness that really gave me this vibe that everything could be okay, and really gave me this sense that bronies have the power to change the world. And, you know, here we are 8 years later, and I'm still talking about this. And granted, we have a ways to go. We you know, right now we have a lot of infighting even within our own fandom here. You know, a lot of people don't see eye to eye, but as long as we keep pushing and we can build upon that sense of camaraderie and togetherness and the elements of harmony, we really can make a difference in this world. And I still truly believe that. Now, that being said here, let's get into talking about this specific set of topics I want to talk about today. And just as an introduction, I'm just going to share a little clip with you guys here of something we saw way back in season 1 of Friendship is Magic to kind of set into where we're going to be talking about today.
Thanks again for the invite. See you later, Britt the alligator. Bravo for hosting yet another delightful soiree. It's been lovely. You sure you don't want to stay? There's still some cake left.
I think I'm gonna pass. Great party, though. We should do this again soon.
We should do this again soon.
Oh, hi, Pinkie.
It's soon.
Pardon me?
You said we should have another party soon, and it's soon. Here's your invitation.
You're invited to Gummy's after birthday party this afternoon at 3 o'clock.
All our bestest friends are invited, and there's gonna be dancing and games and cake and ice cream and punch.
This afternoon? As in this afternoon?
Yes, indeedy.
So, we all remember this episode, Party of One, way back in season 1. It's a lot of people's favorite episode. In fact, Andrea Libman for years said that it was her favorite episode. It might still be, for all I know. Haven't asked her in a while. But we are going to use this episode, of all things, to talk about... We're going to talk about depression and anxiety. Any of you who have followed my content or followed me on social media or anything this year are probably aware that this has been a very rough year for me. This panel is a very personal panel to me. I'm going to be talking about some things that I experienced this year. And the thing about it is I've learned a lot of lessons through my experiences. And I've always kind of felt that we all go through hardships, and if I have to deal with some hard times, but I can find a way to learn from it and hopefully share it with you guys to help everyone else out, then it was all worth it. So one thing about me to know is that I have suffered from depression and anxiety my entire life, as long as I could remember. And it's been a struggle. It went very much unchecked, untreated for a long period of time. And there's the time period when I grew up, we really didn't talk about this stuff. This was late 90s into early 2000s, and we still need to do a better job, I think, of talking about mental health in this country, but we are getting there. But even you back it up about 20 years and think, whew, The specific topic I want to talk about here in relation to what we've been looking at is a concept called strain theory, coined by a man named Robert Merton. So, strain theory is actually used to explain a lot, and one of the things that I've seen it used to explain is criminology and why people commit crimes. But I feel like this can be used to explain so many other things. So let me break this down for you guys. And we're going to use Pinkie Pie as our example here. So, Pinkie Pie in that episode is very much like, on her kind of one-track mind on partying. I'm going to make these parties. I'm going to make my friends happy because that's what makes me happy. Now, everybody has what we're going to refer to as strains for this. You have internal strains and you have external strains, right? So you have internal strains that we all have. Some of these are just simple biological strains. So things like hunger. You ever think about when you get hangry? When your hunger gets you angry, right? So right there's an internal strain you have that's just, natural just from biology. But we have so many other strains that we have. Just anything about your natural body functions and everything that's going on through your mind is an internal strain. But then you add on external strains. Now, in the clip we saw here, Pinkie Pie goes to Twilight and gets the rebuttal of like, I can't come, this afternoon? Oh my gosh, that's too soon. And one denial is okay. But then Pinkie Pie in that episode keeps going to friend after friend and keeps getting that door kind of slammed in the face type of feeling. Granted, they were much more polite than that, but it keeps on repeating. And with each repeat, it adds an external strain to Pinkie Pie. Each one of them is like that, what's going on? What is happening? Why does nobody want to be coming to my party? Why is everybody shunning me all of a sudden? At least that's what's in Pinkie Pie's mind here. Now, granted, we as the viewer kind of know better, especially if you've seen the episode, but this is a big thing. And think about this in your own life, about times you've tried to make plans and it seems like nobody wants to do anything, and how that makes you feel. And it might have nothing to do with you, but I know I try to organize game nights here and there, and I reach out and I get maybe one response, and I'm like, I can't do a big group game night. Like, we can't play Among Us with 3 people. So, that strain gets there. And the more you have your internal strains plus your external strains, they build up, and eventually something's going to break. Something's going to snap. You need to do something to break yourself of these strains. Now, Pinkie Pie in this episode, we see her reaction to strains, don't we? I think we do.
No, you're not understanding me. I want you to confess.
Confess?
Confess!
I'm the one who spilled juice all over Twilight's copy of Magical Mysteries and Practical Potions!
And?
And I'm the one who used up all the hot water in Ponyville yesterday when I took a 7-hour bubble bath. And sometimes, when no one's around, I do this. Looking good, Spike, looking real good.
No, 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 no!
Well, what do you want to hear? Tell me what you want me to say and I'll say it.
Tell me that my friends are all lying to me and avoiding me because they don't like my parties and they don't want to be my friends anymore!
Your friends are all lying to you and avoiding you because they don't like your parties and they don't want to be your friends anymore.
Aha! I knew it! Oh no! My friends don't like my parties and they don't want to be my friends anymore.
That scene still gets me. I still get so sad every time I see her kind of just literally deflate in that scene. But that brings me to my next topic here, which is the idea of a self-fulfilling prophecy. And it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and let me explain it in social science terms here for you. Self-fulfilling prophecy happens when you believe that someone will react in such a way that you end up, a lot of times, unconsciously acting in such a way that will end up inevitably making that other person react the way they thought they would. We see it clearly, now granted, a little more exaggerated than we would see in normal life, but with what we just saw between Pinkie Pie and Spike. Pinkie Pie is acting in such a way to make Spike literally say the words to her that she thinks is happening. She's essentially making that thought, that fear, come into reality. And it's something we all have to be a little careful of here, because what happens a lot of times is that fear, that self-doubt, that strain, we start to believe in it. That self-doubt. And if we let it sink in too much, we may not even realize it, but we might be acting in such a way where we might think, oh, nobody has time for me, or nobody cares about me. But then we end up acting, maybe unconsciously even, or subconsciously, in such a way that when we get our friends saying, you know, I can't do things, or it seems like people don't want to be around us as much, or, you know, a lot of that can be in our own heads. But sometimes if we're not careful, we might start acting in such a way to create it, just what Pinkie Pie does here. And she does even more than that in this episode, right? That's the start of it. Once she fully kind of buys into that thought that her friends don't want to be her friends anymore, this little inner voice kind of picks up steam, right? That we see in that episode.
This is one great party! You really outdone yourself!
Why, thank you, Rocky.
I'm having a delightful time as well!
I'm so glad, Sir Lancelot. My tights got my a slice of cake. Anything for you, Madame LaFlower.
I'm just glad none of them ponies showed up.
Oh, they're not so bad.
Not so bad? Police! They're a bunch of losers!
Oh, come on now. Losers might be a little strong, don't you think?
After the way they treated you, I say losers isn't strong enough.
Oh, it was pretty rude. Pretty rude? It was downright despicable! It was, wasn't it?
If I were you, I wouldn't speak to them ever again.
You know what? I'm not gonna speak to them ever again. And I'm not gonna invite them to another party as long as I live. They don't deserve to be invited to my parties. Not after the way they've been acting. Despicable!
Losers!
Yes!
Let's talk about that inner voice we have. That can pop up. Now, a big thing here, a lot of times it's not as extreme as what we saw with Pinkie Pie. We're not always personifying rocks and plants and such. And you know what? Even if you have, or someone has, so be it. While for some times it might seem extreme, I've had that moment. I can speak to it. You know, going through depression, going through anxiety, where I'm almost having this inner monologue with myself, fighting against myself to go, you know, am I really that bad? Are things really that bad? Do my friends really not care about me? Does the community not care about me? You know, it's a crazy thing to say, but like, you know, I have experienced a lot in my time in the fandom. And, you know, I've been running this project for like 8 years now or so. And you go through and you talk about these things and you hope that you're making a positive difference. But then, you know, you go to conventions sometimes and you see, you know, just negativity and hate come from people. And you have, and, you know, when you have a depressed mind, you end up finding yourself going within and going, are people listening? Do people care about me? Am I really making a difference? And a lot of times that's very defeatist right from the beginning. But it's hard when you can get in your own head, because the thing about depression is, you know, you are not producing enough of the happy chemicals, so to speak. You know, the way depression works is you are literally in a chemical imbalance in your brain. And you add anxiety on top of that, and your fears, your simple fears, which fear is a natural instinct that is put in you to try to help you survive. But a lot of times it goes crazy because we can't help but sometimes let our minds wander if our brains just naturally, through no fault of our own, is not kicking in the right balance of chemicals and stuff to keep us regulated. It's hard. And then we have to fight that inner voice. And that's the worst. And that's one of the hardest things to do, because that's your own voice coming from your own head. And it's hard to fight yourself. So it's something that we all kind of, it's like a never-ending battle for anybody who has, you know, experienced this. And let's face it, depression and anxiety is nothing really new to a lot of people in our generation. You know, not everybody experiences it the same way either. But a lot of us have experienced something like this. So, what does it take sometimes to kind of break us of this? Well, what happened with Pinkie Pie?
We're here!
Surprise!
I really thought she'd be more excited. Excited? Excited? Why would I be excited to attend my own farewell party?
Farewell party?
Yes! You don't like me anymore, so you decided to kick me out of the group and throw a great big party to celebrate! A farewell and Pinkie Pie party!
Why in the world would you think we didn't like you anymore, Sugar Cube?
Why? 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 Because you've been lying to me and avoiding me all day! That's why!
Yeah, because we wanted your party to be a surprise. We've been planning this party for such a long time, we had to make excuses for why we couldn't attend Gummy's party so that we could get everything ready for yours.
If this is a farewell party, why does the cake I picked up from Sugar Cube Corner say, Happy Birthday Pinkie Pie?
Because it's my birthday! Oh, how could I have forgotten my own birthday? And you like me so much you decide to throw me a surprise party!
That's what we've been trying to tell you, darling.
You girls are the best friends ever! How could I have ever doubted you?
It's okay, Pinkie Pie. It could have happened to any of us.
Don't worry about it.
Friendship. It really is magic. I'm fair warning, I might tear up at parts of this panel, so forgive me. As I've mentioned before, 2022 has been a very difficult year for me. I've had a lot of self-doubt. I've had a lot of periods of incredible just strain, struggle, to the point where back in March of this year, I actually, through encouragement of my friends, went and sought additional help above what I've already done. So in March, I went to the hospital for my mental health. I was in there for a little over a week, and it was a very eye-opening experience, and it really helped me. And beyond that, the biggest thing that was underlying it was the support of my friends. There are some people out there, I don't know if you're watching or not, but Thoth Penswell and Baha Griffin and Gajinka, who have been amazing friends to me and have supported me and just listened to my rambling, sometimes my nonsense, and helped me to know there was still support there and that people still believed in me despite a lot of things. You know, a lot of times at the beginning of this year when I tried to, you know, feel positive, I'd have negatives. You know, I'd see racist iconography in our own community, or I'd see somebody promoting hate in our own fandom. And then I remember even the weekend of HarmonyCon was the weekend Russia invaded Ukraine. So, like, I remember leaving that convention when I should normally be on this high of interacting with all these great people and doing these great presentations. And I felt so somber because there's just so much hate in the world. And it just took a toll. But knowing that you have friends there is so important, guys. And that's one of the big things here about us understanding one another and communicating with one another, because just an acknowledgement that somebody else might be going through something, or that we understand, or just saying even, I don't understand, but I'm still here for you, is huge. Friendship really is magic. It really, truly is. So we talked about Pinkie Pie as an introduction here. And like I mentioned, I did end up in the hospital. While I was in the hospital, I did speak with someone, a therapist in there, who made me realize something. And I want to talk about it today. And we're going to talk about the concept of trauma. Specifically, we're going to talk about childhood trauma. Because for me, one of the things that I learned was a lot of things that I had bottled up, thought that I was okay with, thought that I was good about. I wasn't really dealing with them the way I should have been. And it reminded me of a little filly we got to meet in season 5. You can see her on screen there. And the trauma that impacted her.
Sunburst and I did everything together. In fact, I don't remember us ever being apart. Until today. Just like that, my friend was gone. His family recognized his magical talent and sent him off to Canterlot. I never saw him again.
Well, why not?
Because of his cutie mark. He got his and I didn't. He moved on and I didn't. I stayed here and never made another friend because I was too afraid another cutie mark would take them away too.
That's ridiculous. A cutie mark can't take your friends away.
Not every pony's lucky enough to get her cutie mark at the same time as her friend.
The official term here is adverse childhood experiences, which is also shortened to ACEs. For Starlight Glimmer, let me say this. one of the biggest critiques that I have heard over the years about Starlight Glimmer's character, especially her introduction in Season 5, excuse me, is people saying that they don't believe that losing one friend as a child would really spawn somebody or some pony to enslave an entire village out of, fear of rejection or whatever. I will say that in my time, and especially reflecting this year more than anything else, is I get it. There's a lot we don't know about Starlight's childhood, too. Other events could have happened. This is just kind of the pivotal moment. The moment that she looks back on. Because it's a thing that I'm realizing that talking when I was in therapy in the hospital and realizing how much of my childhood I had kind of pushed aside or brushed off, thinking, yeah, I had a terrible childhood, but most people had a crappy childhood. I'm nothing special. And I've kind of pushed it off for years. And a lot of it came back to hit home for me this year. I'm not... The irony of this is, my parents have never seen anything that I've done for keeping friendship magic. This will probably be the one thing that they inevitably end up seeing, right? But I grew up in a household where there was essentially... The way I put it is, I grew up in a household with no love. My parents did the stay together for the kids thing, which most people will tell you is a terrible idea and can have a lot of negative effects on your children. Because for my parents, they were just miserable most of the time. When I think back to my childhood, there was just so much tension and passive aggressiveness in our household that you could reach out and grab it and touch it. And I just eventually went, you know what, things could have been worse, and whatever, it happened. But I didn't realize how much a lot of things, and there's things that happened that I'm not going to talk about here in this panel, because then we'll be here all day. But there was a lot of experiences from my childhood that I think impacted me more than I thought. The other thing I want to mention here is I'm not alone, and I've learned that through research here ever since I got out of the hospital in preparation for this panel. The CDC did a study across 25 states in America and determined that approximately 61% of adults report having a negative experience in their adult life that stems from having an adverse childhood experience. 61% of people. That's a lot of people. There's a stereotype when it comes to therapy that we just go and talk about your childhood and blah, 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 and it's not always that. Not always. No. Trauma develops over time. But if you have a traumatic event in your childhood, if you have an adverse childhood experience, that can stick with you. And even if you're not actively thinking about it, for me, I had a big sense of abandonment. That was one of my big problems, is that I continuously felt abandoned by my parents, by my family, by teachers, by just so many things. Because nobody, I wasn't getting the attention. I was depressed. I wasn't getting anything other than just this passive-aggressive, nobody's gonna care about you. And that stuff digs a hole in your heart. It digs a hole in your mind that it's easy to fall into. And you don't even realize sometimes it's happening. So, it's something to be aware of. It's something to think in your head about what's brought you to the point you're at currently in life. And also being aware that whoever you are interacting with in your friend group or otherwise might have something like that they are working through. That awareness is huge. I talked a little bit about parents. We actually got to meet Starlight's dad in the series. Guys remember that?
Preservation Society? What is happening around here?
I'll explain it to you, Sugar Plum. You are just as cutesy-wootsy as ever.
Dad, quit it! What is going on?
Oh, just a father wanting to preserve our town's rich history for his little pumpkin wumpkin.
Dad, you promised no pumpkin wumpkins in public.
Sorry, chipmunk cheeks.
Don't. You're preserving the whole town? That's crazy.
So, your experience may vary, and this is important to note here. I had what happened in my childhood. Your childhood may be different. Starlight certainly was. The way her interaction with her father was definitely different than my interaction with my parents as growing up. But, nevertheless, it's most likely not what Starlight needed. Now, I want to be very clear here, because this is going to sound like I'm very critical of parents and parenting. Parenting is hard. Shout out to anybody watching right now who's a parent. Parenting is hard. We don't come out with an instruction booklet. And I've often said this, that a lot of times you don't know until it's too late the right way to parent your kid. So I'm not dissing on parents. I'm not even dissing on my own. I recognize that they had hardships and they had things that they were going through. But a lot of times we aren't getting what we need. And that just compounds the situation. It's not about blame. It's about understanding and growing and dealing with the trauma that has imparted onto us in life. And like I said, your experience may vary. Look at Starlight's dad. Think about Starlight's dad with her as a child. So Starlight loses her best friend, thinks she can't find another, has this incredible ability within her that she's going to develop. She probably wants to go out in the world like Sunburst did and rekindle friendships, deepen them, but if her dad's babying her and treating her like, oh, little pumpkin wumpkin, what you want to do? You're so cute. Like, arguably, she probably didn't need that style. I'm not saying it's bad, but what she needed there wasn't happening. My one advice that I would say to parents is just be open to possibilities of what could be. You never know if you go in with just being rigid and thinking this one way is the way to be. You never know that there might be another thing that could help that benefit them that much more. Trauma hits home and it hurts and it follows you. Real quick, I want to talk about, there's actually 3 types of trauma, and I want to break this down because I feel like trauma's gotten, I don't know, I feel like there's a misunderstanding sometimes with trauma. So let's break this down. You have acute trauma, which is what most people think of a trauma or traumatic event. It's a one-time event that occurs that sticks with you. This could be something like getting into a car accident. Could be an acute trauma. It's a one-time thing that happened, but you have residual effects from it. Chronic is something that happens repeatedly over time. And this would fall into chronic and complex, which we'll talk about complex in a second. But chronic can be things that just, things that repeat over time. So this could be a repeat situation with an individual. Maybe you brought somebody into your life that is causing you constant trauma. This could be situations, and again, this is why I put a content warning in the front of this. Things like domestic abuse could fall into this. Things like just an abusive household in general. Just constant conflict with people that maybe shouldn't be in your life, arguably at times. Granted, that's a decision on an individual basis for you to make. However, if it repeats so much, chronic turns into complex. Or complex is something where you experience something so consistently, so long, over a period of time, that it has long-lasting negative psychological, sometimes physiological effects on you. And this is what I think I experienced myself as far as trauma goes. When I think back on some things in my life where it has caused me to be very sensitive to things in my adulthood and caused me to not be able to trust people as much as I want to. And when I do, and I'm, and somebody does something that makes me distrust, it knocks me down so hard. Trauma sticks with you, and it's kind of a never-ending battle. Like I said, a lot of the things we're talking about in this is just life. And it's important to talk about this because we all go through these things. It might be different what the start of it is or how it finishes, but we all go through something. And we're all going to be impacted in different ways, but recognizing that everybody's hurting a little bit on the inside at minimum. And being there for one another is so important. I want to keep talking about Starlight in our next segment here. And a word I just brought up, which is trust. Because trust being broken is huge in your life. And this is what happened with Starlight. Is she found that she couldn't trust people. And it's weird, I'll tell you. The type of person that I am here, when I was in the hospital, I don't know where it is around here, else I'd find it, but I have a notebook where I was literally sketching out panel ideas while I was in the hospital based on what I was learning. This is just what I do. It's kind of, I've joked that keeping friendship magic is partially for me to be able to help others out there, and partially my own therapy. So congratulations, everybody. But thank you for joining me for therapy today. But when I was sketching out this panel almost became, holy crap, I'm actually Starlight Glimmer. Because I realized how much I sympathize with this character and what she's gone through. Let's take a look at a moment where Starlight had just really expressed this feeling about trust.
I've seen it a dozen times. Things don't turn out well in Equestria without my friends.
Ugh, what's so special about your friends? How can a group of ponies that are so different be so important?
The differences between me and my friends are the very things that make our friendship strong.
I thought Sunburst and I were the same, but we turned out different, and it tore our friendship apart!
So try again. Make new friends. And if something that you can't control happens that changes things, work through it together. That's what friendship is. And it's not just my friendships that are important to Equestria. Every pony's are. When yours ended, it led us here. But just imagine all the others that are out there waiting for you if you just give them a chance.
How do I know they won't all end the same way?
I guess it's up to you to make sure they don't.
One of the big things there is Starlight saying, like, how do I know it won't end the same? How do I know I can trust? If somebody makes you lose trust, especially when you're young, I mean, that has a huge impact. That in and of itself can be a traumatic experience. And what it does is it plays on that anxiety. We all have anxiety to a degree, but when you get to a certain level, it can become chronic. It can become a disorder. It can become a real issue and prevent you from doing things. And it all plays on fear. Fear is a concept I mentioned earlier in this panel, and it's so important to think about. I have to quote this because it just has to be said. One of the best things that came out of the Star Wars prequels is Yoda's line about fear, it leads to anger. Anger leads to hate. Hate leads to suffering. Think about it in your own life. Think about when you've been so afraid about something that might happen that it actually does get you mad about it. Because it's not fair. Why should I have to be afraid of this? Why should I have to be afraid of whether or not I can trust other people? That's huge! That's freaking huge, right? It sounds so simple, but it can play such a big impact in our lives. It happens to all of us, and it has a profound effect on how we live our lives. Even when you start overcoming that fear, it can still just nestle into that part in the back of your brain, and it can come back and haunt you, and it can play a role. And I can understand this firsthand. For a long time, I was afraid about making friends. I had a lot of fake friends as a kid. You know, if you've ever seen a group of friends, especially, I think this happens more with kids as you're growing up and learning about how to interact with others, where if you ever see a group of people and there's one person there that it seems like their responsibility, their role in that group is to be a punching bag. Is to be the one that everybody else just craps on. That was my childhood. I had a series of very fake friends. People I knew were lying to me and using me just to, mock me behind my back. Or not even so much behind my back at times. And sorry guys, forgive me. But I stuck with them because I just didn't want to be alone, because remember I talked about feeling abandoned. I didn't feel like I could come home and be safe all the time, so even if I'm being, lied to, at least it's better than having nobody. Which is not healthy, but it's how I was, because I just was too afraid of having nobody. But that also stuck with me to put trust issues going forward. It wasn't until I met people in this fandom, in this community, that I started to trust people again. And it's hard, And even when you start to trust people again, when you start to see cracks, when you start to see negative things within there, it can open up those wounds again. We're going back to another thing with Starlight here.
Are you aware that at this very moment, Princess Celestia is waiting for you at a table with exquisite silverware placement?
Yes, but...
This is exactly why I didn't want you to make friends with Trixie.
Ha! You still don't trust me. But guess what, Princess? It doesn't matter if you want to give me a second chance or not. Starlight had to choose between you and me. And she chose me. Your pupil chose me. So, I win.
You win? That sounds like you just made friends with me to beat Twilight.
Exactly. Wait! No! I got caught up in the moment. I like you. Beating Twilight is just a bonus. Oh, saying that didn't help, did it?
I should have known. No pony else in Ponyville wanted to be my friend. Why would you?
So let's talk about this idea of repeat experiences. You're going to notice I put the word repeat in quotation marks here. Starlight has her traumatic experience from childhood with Sunburst, and that follows her. And she's starting to try to figure out making friends and making an attempt. But here she feels like she's being used, and somebody she finally thought could be a real, genuine friend who appreciated her, including her quote-unquote dark past. And then this happens. It brings you right back to that original experience. And whether or not they're the same experience, it's similar enough that it feels like a repeat experience. It feels like, I thought I could trust somebody, but now I can't. Holy crap, that's huge. It's huge. And it impacts us all. It causes people to go within. A character that I don't have in this panel specifically, but I have talked about in the past, is Moon Dancer. And it's something similar happened with her, right? Where she finally decided to let her guard down and really open up and try to do this party, and then she felt rejected. And then it made her turn within. It happens to a lot of us. And that happened to me this year a couple of times. It happened back in February and March when I went to the hospital, and it happened again a little bit after I got out of the hospital. Well, I want to play one more clip for you guys, and I want to talk about it. And we're going to talk about it from two different characters' perspectives, because I feel like I can understand this scene from two different perspectives, and I want to discuss it.
For tonight, the great and powerful Trixie will be performing the Moonshot Manticore Mouth Dive.
Now, save your gasps for when I defy the beast's jaws of doom and appear inside that black box. I was supposed to perform this trick with my great and powerful assistant, who was also my great and powerful friend.
Starlight, when I first came to Ponyville, Princess Celestia gave me room to make my own decisions and my own friends. I need to give you the same freedom. I shouldn't have tried to pick and choose your friends for you. Just like me, you have to make your own decisions and your own friends.
But what if Trixie really was using me just to one-up you?
From what I've seen, she's the real thing. But it's not my place to judge. It's all up to you.
Starlight, if you're out there and you still want to be friends, let's be great and powerful together.
Please?
I want to look at that scene from both Starlight's perspective and Trixie's perspective. So let's talk about Starlight there. Starlight feels so hurt that she feels almost immobilized, like she's crying and doesn't know what to do and doesn't know whether she should try to do something here. And just kind of almost immobilized with fear in that point. And I have felt that, where your anxiety, your inner voice gets you down to that place where you just feel like you can't act. That no matter what you do, you're almost going to do the wrong thing. Now, Trixie. Here's the reality of that scene. Trixie is basically going to the point of no return. If Starlight doesn't come through, Trixie doesn't survive. That's... whoa. Especially in a kid's show, right? But the crazy thing about it is that, like, literally, Trixie is lining herself up for something that could literally end her life, and she knows it. It's almost like Trixie now is in that spot where she's brought so down that I'm going to do this crazy thing, and either people are going to be there for me or it's not worth living. Whoa. But I've been in both of their shoes, or horseshoes, hooves, whatever we want to call it. I've been in both of those places. It's intense, but it's real, and it can happen. In the end, they came together. You know, Starlight took another chance, and we all know how they went. And honestly, their friendship was one of my favorite parts of the rest of the series. But to piggyback off of this, like I said, I went into the hospital back in March, and I was good for a little bit. But then when I left the hospital, I got set up with not the best care. I got set up with a therapist outside of there that actually was making me feel worse, which happens. It can happen. And it really drug me down because I thought, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do, and it's not working. I'm getting worse again. The reality of this is that you can always try different therapists, always try different things. But at the time, it dug my hole very deep. And I felt like Trixie, where I didn't want to die, but I was starting to feel hopeless. And I didn't know where to turn or what to do. And things were, to be honest with you, looking very bad for me. And I really thought that I was not going to survive the year. I'm just being honest with you guys. I know this is dark. I know this is intense, but this is what can happen. And I bring this up to say, if somebody like me can go around and talk about this, know you guys are not alone if you've ever felt this way. There are others who have felt like this. And we can talk about these things and we can come together. Look at all of this. I just used a whole bunch of episodes of Pony to talk about how we can look at these issues. There are ways through this. For me, I was at one of my lowest points ever in my life. And my partner in crime in Keeping Friendship Magic, Nova Rose, convinced me to go to another pony convention, to say, don't do this to yourself. Just give it a shot. Give it one more go. I know you feel really down. I know you feel like you're not making an impact, but give it one more go. So Rose convinced me to attend a little convention called Sequestria Fest. I'm going to be very real with you guys. Attending Sequestria Fest literally saved my life. I was the very first presentation of that entire convention. And I was nervous. I was not quite myself. But I got up on stage. And I did an old Keeping Friendship Magic panel that I love doing called The Odd Pony Out. And I'm maybe half an hour into it. I'm looking out in the audience and it hits me. Like, I could see I'm connecting with people again. And people are caring and people are listening. And having a community like this who really believes in wanting to be better and wanting to see positive change in the world means everything to me. So it was, by the end of that weekend, it was Sunday. We're at a dinner, and I'm sitting there with some of the con staff and the lovely and amazing Ellie Ray, which I tell you what, Ellie Ray, you get in a room with her, and she'll change your life. But I'm sitting there and I have this epiphany that I didn't have any thoughts about hurting myself anymore. And that was through the power of friendship and positivity in a weekend. And it just reminded me we can do so much with our positivity and our message and our belief in the elements of harmony and friendship. We can impact so much. We can help so many people. I am very thankful that I got talked into going and presenting. It was a very powerful experience for me. Now, I want to tell you a story. Let me look at time. Okay, I got 20 minutes. I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened this weekend, and it brings us into a topic we need to talk about that links in with everything else. And it's the word triggers. I feel like this word has gotten very bad rap. Thanks, Tumblr, for that. I mean, it sounds silly, but let's face it, it's true. I don't think people truly understand the reality of a trigger. So, one of the ironies here, this is another Pinkie Pie segment. Apparently, in doing this panel, we learned that if you combine Pinkie Pie and Starlight Glimmer, that's how you get a forward progress, I guess. So, but let's take a look at something that happened with Pinkie Pie so we can talk about this concept.
Can I favor you all with a tune? I take requests!
Actually, we do have a request, and yeah, it involves your Yavitaphone.
You mean the thing I love more than anything else in Equestria? My sun, my moon, my stars, my everything?
Well, it's just, you need to know the Twilight.
Pinkie, we all support you, but we're afraid you're just not good at the Yavitaphone, and none of us want you to waste your time on something you can't do well.
tell you. Why? It's just a silly instrument. Well, lunch break's over. Gotta get back to the bakery. Those apple turnovers aren't gonna apple themselves. No more you better go play for me! No Mario Vitaphone playing for me. And a 1 and a 2, and I don't know what to do.
So let's talk about what a trigger is. At its core, what it truly is. And I'm going to do this by telling you guys a story. It's a real thing that happened to me. Well, let me start at the beginning. One of the things I'm trying to do better at, and I've been working through therapy and such on, is not being so embarrassed by my passions, my desires, things from my past, and accepting what's happened. So I'm going to share some things with you guys today. When I was a kid, the number one thing I wanted to do more than anything else was I wanted to change the world for the better. Which it sounds like, okay. But think about it. When you're a kid, you dream big. Like, I want to be an astronaut. I want to be president or this. Or I'm going to be all this big... That's what I wanted. And the way that I wanted to do was, more than anything else as a kid, I wanted to be a musician. It's something I don't talk about much, and I didn't talk about it all, because when I was a kid, I tried to become a musician. I remember there was a music video I saw as a kid that had a guy playing a saxophone, and I thought it was the coolest freaking thing. I was like, this guy is awesome, I want to be like that. So I tried to learn saxophone as a kid, and I got so into it. Like, I got the instrument ahead of time, and I started practicing on my own, and thinking, like, I'm gonna be great. I got put in this little class, and I was like in the 3rd grade or something. And what happened was, I stayed about here, and the class kept going, and I was not getting any better. The class would not stop to help me. The teacher would not stop to help me. Nobody talked to me about it. Nobody offered help. I felt small. I felt powerless. And I felt like I had no talent. So eventually I couldn't take it anymore, and I gave up and returned the saxophone. And I still dreamt about wanting to be a musician or play music, but I buried it because I felt I have no talent. It's useless. But I'd still dream, and I'd still want it, and I had music as a big part of my life, but I wouldn't tell anybody about it. I wouldn't make attempts to do it. You know, I hated my voice, the sound of my voice. I felt like I could never be a singer, and I felt like I had no talent to play an instrument, and it just got buried in there. So fast forward to this March when I was in the hospital. We had music therapy as part of our part of the treatment program there. Interestingly enough, a couple of times we were able to choose songs to play that we thought were good songs for, you know, that we vibed with or sent a good message about, you know, promoting therapy and such. I played some pony songs. I actually did in therapy. So, yeah, it runs deep, y'all. But the one day she brings in, the music therapist brought in a bunch of percussion instruments, like little drums, little bongos, all this stuff, castanets, all of that. And there's actually a very big thing, because the idea was to do this thing where we play it a little bit, and you get into a rhythm, and you match your breathing and your heartbeat. There's a whole thing to it, and it really is therapeutic. But for me, when I grabbed the bongos, I grabbed this little set of bongos, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, okay, you can do this. Like, internally, I have a little freaking out, but I'm like, you can do this. You can try this. I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to play the instrument, like, and I'm trying to kind of hit it a little bit. And one of the other guys that was in there with me, and he didn't mean anything negative by this, but he was like, no, that's not how you do it. You have to do it like this. In that moment, it was a trigger for me. I was right back in like 3rd grade or whenever it was, when I was like 7. And I'm basically having it beat into me. I can't do this. I have no talent inherent to me. I'll never be able to do this. And I almost broke down right then and there. I started having a panic attack right then and there. I got up, I walked out of the room, I went and got an anxiety medication, and I went to my room there in the hospital, and I lied down because I couldn't handle it. It hurt a lot. And that's a trigger. And it can be so many things. It can be a smell. It can be a sight. It can be an experience. But it takes you back to some traumatic thing that happened in your life. And you're right back there again. You know, we make jokes about it a lot. And it's not a joke. It's a reality. You never know what it's going to be. And for everybody, it might be something different. And it's why I put a content warning at the beginning of this, because I realized that even discussion about certain topics might be a trigger to people. That being said, you know, it doesn't mean we all have to be beholden to them our entire life. So the second part of this story is from Sequestria Fest. Now, the title of this panel is called The Pony I Wanna Be, which might have made you think that we were going to talk about this pony right here, right? Well, close. It more has something to do with this pony right here. If you're not familiar with who this pony is Koa Pony, who is a guest here, and actually I think is probably doing a Q&A as we speak, which is ironic because now I'm talking about her. However, she's wonderful, she's a sweetheart, she's a great friend, I love her, support her, her music is amazing. So, at PonyFest, or no, this is PonyFest, at Sequestria Fest, I got lucky that 3 of my friends had back in the concert, and a lot of times I miss my music friends' performances, my musician friends' performances, because I'm usually busy doing content. But at Sequestria Fest, I was lucky enough to be able to go to the one night of concerts. And I had Luck Rock and Koa and Achieve Hunter were back, all friends of mine, and I'm like, this is great. So during Luck Rock set, which Koa was actually assisting with, they had a little tambourine that they passed around, and I'm seeing it. What they're doing is they gave a tambourine, and the idea was after each song, somebody would pass the tambourine to somebody else, and you could play it with them along. And I see it, and I'm standing in the back, just kind of jiving, watching my friends play, and I'm like, okay, this is probably going to get to me. And I'm kind of mentally preparing for it. The tambourine did finally get to me. And I'm standing there with it. I'm holding it down here like this. And I'm like, all right, let's figure out what to do. And I'm kind of shaking it a little bit, but not really doing much with it. And I'm like, okay, I can do this. Well, somebody sees me and probably thinks, oh my God, that guy's struggling. I should go help him out. And a guy comes up to me and he's like, hey, I'll take that from you. It's okay. Another experience where I could have taken that, like I said earlier, with repeat experiences. I could have taken that to mean somebody else is telling me I don't have talent again and I'm useless. But after all the positivity and friendship I experienced that weekend, I can tell you what, guys, I didn't freak out. I kept my cool. I stayed okay because I knew that I was surrounded by people who cared and wanted to see me succeed. This wasn't out of malice. And it's hard to get to that place sometimes. And it might take time and it might take experience and getting to know people. But for me, it was huge for me. It was a breakthrough because right after that set finished, Koa got up on stage. And something I can't even believe that I'm going to share with you guys, but I'm going to do it. Something happened during Koa's set that I didn't think I'd be able to do, let alone be able to share with you guys. But I'm just going to stop talking and just show you what happened. Yeah. I sang into a microphone at a concert at a pony convention. I still can't believe I did it. And I want to thank Koa for believing in me and calling me up. I did it. And I didn't get any negative response. And I didn't have people telling me your voice sucks. It was huge for me, guys. It was huge. You go so long believing you have no talent. And then something positive happens. And it's like, whoa, I can do this. Think about that in the episode we were talking about. Yakety Sax with Pinkie Pie here. And how that episode ends is so crucial.
Me neither.
Oh, Pony play good set.
You think so? Even though it wasn't perfect?
Your videophone is instrument of happiness. Playing your videophone make Pony happy. Pony playing is perfect.
Triggers are a continued battle throughout life, but think about what that yak said. It is such sage wisdom. If it makes you happy, it can't be that bad. I'm quoting Sheryl Crow right now, but think about it. I mean, granted, there's certain things out there that can be. You know, if you take joy in harming others, that's not good. But if it's something that makes you feel good and it doesn't harm anybody else, you know, I love singing, but I hate my voice. But you know what? If I'm in the mood, if I'm in that mode, I'm not hurting anybody. Who cares if I'm singing along with a song I love or jamming out with friends? And maybe over time I can learn that maybe I do have some talent in me. I can try, but it's always going to be a battle, and it's not going to be easy. I'm going to show you guys something that I have that's kind of becoming a goal for me. So, oh, come on. That is if I can get it out. But I have this. I got it years ago when I had a string of trying to change things, but I still haven't yet to learn to play it. But I have it. And I've talked with some of my musician friends, and, you know, I don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to try at some point anyway. I'm going to take my time, but eventually I want to learn how to play this, and maybe I get to play it for you guys someday. It's my hope anyway. I don't know if it'll ever happen. And if it doesn't, okay. But I'm going to work at it. And this means I'm going to continue to work through the trepidation, continue to work through the fear. But if I have friends who believe in me, then maybe that can help me believe a little bit more in myself. And isn't that what friendship's all about? So, let me set this down here so I can finish up. But, unfortunately, I didn't get to the last segment of this again, because I only have 4 minutes to go. But, I'll mention quickly, because I'm talking about, you know, a continued battle here with triggers. This isn't my only trigger. It's an interesting thing, and I wanted to bring up quickly. So I have a really bad telephone anxiety. I cannot deal when I do not know who's on the other end of the line. If they're not a dear personal friend, I'm not good with the phone. One time when I was still on Twitter anyway, before, you know, the current escapades on Twitter, I put this poll out there earlier this year, back in May, in fact. And I asked, you know, hey, this is something I'm experiencing with anxiety. Is this something that you guys experience too? Out of 67 votes, about 90% said they at least had some form of telephone anxiety. So I bring that up to say, you're not alone most of the time. The things that you're worried about, the things that trigger you, the things you have anxiety about, the things that you have trauma about, you're almost guarantee you're not alone. Somebody else has experienced something like that. And that's huge. Knowing that you're not alone in the world is huge. You can talk to people. You can talk to me. You can talk to your friends. You can talk to so many people. There is so much greatness out there. You know, right now, it's an odd time, you know. I have some things, like, I have made some decisions lately where I've needed to take care of myself and my safety and my health. But we still have this online convention. We still have routes we can interact with people. And it's amazing. Friendship does so much. Being able to have somebody to turn to when you need it. Being able to have people who will understand you and listen to you and will know that you're not just joking. You're not just, you know, saying things to belittle a situation. You're not just looking for attention. You are a person. You have beliefs. You have fears. And they're not unfounded. But being able to support one another, stay here with each other through it all, and try to make each day a little bit better together, that's what I call keeping friendship magic. I want to thank all of you for tuning in today. We got a little bit of a late start where we were dealing with some technical things because apparently I don't know how to read instructions properly. But thank you all for attending. I'm going to try and get the missing segment that I ran out of time for recorded at some point, and I will get that out there to you guys whenever I can. It's wonderful that we get to have these online conventions, and PonyFest, I really hope you continue on, and I hope that you continue to have me. Thank you all. I'm sorry that this goes right to the end and I don't really have time to answer questions in chat and stuff, but there's a lot of great stuff coming up. Please, please, please visit the vendor hall. Please. They are amazing people in there, and there's something I heard, and it's also give to the charity. When you help others, you can't help helping yourself. Support where you can, even if you can't support monetarily. Get the word out, share it on social media. It's great. Attend the concert tonight. These people are amazing, wonderful, and yeah, it's wonderful. So thank you all again. Thank you, PonyFest. This is Forward Progress signing off. You can check out my socials here. Visit me. I'm on Twitch now. I stream. Which has been a lot of fun, and we're going to be doing a lot more of that coming up, so check me out on Twitch. You can always visit the Patreon. It keeps the project alive. Otherwise, though, I love you guys. Thank you so much, PonyFest. Thank you, audience, and we'll see you guys later. Thank you.